say Missouri is beautiful by day, but by night, it remembers. From prisons steeped in blood to mansions haunted by sorrow, every shadow here hides a story that refuses to die. In these 15 places across the Show Me State, the past doesn't rest quietly, it whispers. It moves, it watches. Tonight, we're unlocking the doors to Missouri's most haunted legends. Places where the air grows cold, the walls still breathe, and history itself won't stay buried. Pour 1. Missouri State Penitentiary, Jefferson City, under the flickering glow of a dying streetlight. The Missouri State Penitentiary looms over the quiet streets of Jefferson City like a monument to misery. Its crumbling limestone walls once confined murderers, thieves, and men who never left, at least. Not in the way they were supposed to. Locals call it the bloodiest 47 acres in America, a name earned after decades of riots, executions, and whispered horrors that still echo through the rusted cell blocks. Guards have reported cold gusts sweeping through sealed corridors, the rattle of chains where no prisoners remain, and faint screams reverberating in the darkness long after the prison closed in 2004. One former guide claimed she saw a shadow pacing inside cell 76, a place where an inmate once carved the words, "I'm still here," into the wall before hanging himself. Visitors on night tours have captured disembodied voices, phantom footsteps, and even photographs showing faces pressed against the iron bars, faces that don't belong to anyone living. The penitentiary has been featured in multiple documentaries and investigative reports as one of the most haunted prisons in the United States. Its reputation reinforced by countless first-hand testimonies from tourists and paranormal teams. Today, the state runs official ghost tours. Yet even the guides admit they sometimes refuse to walk certain corridors alone. Some say the spirits of the condemned never left because they never accepted their fate. So if you ever find yourself standing before those gates after midnight, ask yourself this when the prison went silent. Did the dead finally rest? Or did they just start watching? 2. Lemp Mansion, St. Louis, on a quiet corner of Demenil Place in St. Louis stands a mansion draped in sorrow, the once magnificent home of the Lemp family. Brewers who built an empire of wealth and tragedy. Behind its ornate Victorian windows, an unsettling stillness lingers. Guests who spend the night often say it feels as though the house itself is breathing alive, with the weight of memories too heavy to die. Between 1901 and 1949, 4 members of the Lemp family took their own lives within these very walls. Locals whisper that the patriarch's spirit still roams the halls, searching for the son he lost to despair. Visitors have described seeing doors slam shut with no wind, feeling invisible hands brush against their arms, and hearing the faint notes of a piano playing from the empty dining room. In the attic, people claim to hear the soft sobs of the monkey-faced boy, a disfigured child rumored to have been hidden away from the world. Multiple newspaper reports and televised investigations have chronicled these phenomena, calling Lemp Mansion one of America's most haunted houses. Today, it operates as both a restaurant and a bed and breakfast, but many guests leave before dawn, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. And as the candles flicker against the peeling wallpaper, one question always lingers in the air if every tragedy leaves behind a shadow. How many shadows still walk inside the Lemp Mansion tonight? Sue, Epperson House, Kansas City. At first glance, Epperson House looks like a castle that time forgot towering stone arches, stained glass windows, and a silence so deep it hums. Built in 1919 by wealthy philanthropist Uriah Epperson, this Gothic mansion became part of the University of Missouri Kansas City campus, where for decades, students whispered of the lady who never left. That lady is said to be Harriet Barse, a gifted music student and close friend of Epperson's, who died suddenly before the house was completed. Not long after her death, faculty and night guards began reporting strange occurrences, the echo of footsteps on marble stairs, the pipe organ playing by itself in the empty music hall, and soft singing drifting through locked doors. One campus security officer recounted chasing what he thought was an intruder, only to see the figure vanish through a solid wall. Another swore he heard a woman's voice whisper his name from behind a closed door. Public records and newspaper features have long documented the mansion's hauntings, some even calling it the most haunted building in Kansas City. Though the university no longer allows night access, those who've entered after dark speak of a heavy presence watching from the grand staircase, as if someone still waits to perform her final song. So when the organ pipes moan again in the still of night, who or what do you think is pressing the keys? 4. Pythian Castle, Springfield. At sunset, the silhouette of Pythian Castle cuts against the orange Missouri sky like a fortress guarding its secrets. Built in 1913 by the Knights of Pythias, it was meant to be a home for widows and orphans until the military took it over during World War II. What happened behind those stone walls left marks that time never erased. Soldiers recovering from trauma claimed to hear children's laughter in empty corridors, and nurses reported lights flickering on in locked rooms. After the war, it served as a prison for German and Italian POWs, some of whom, locals say, never left alive. Visitors on modern ghost tours tell eerily similar stories, voices whispering their names, footsteps following them down the basement stairs, and the unmistakable scent of cigar smoke, though no one is smoking. A former tour guide once fainted after seeing a shadow cross the stage in the old ballroom when every guest was accounted for. The building's haunted reputation has been mentioned in multiple features and investigations. Its name often listed among the most active paranormal sites in the Midwest. Even now, during evening tours, guests sometimes hear soft sobs or the faint echo of boots marching in rhythm through the dark. And as the castle's heavy doors close behind you, you can't help but wonder, are you visiting the ghosts? Or are they welcoming you back? 5. Jesse James Farm and Museum, Kearney. Nestled among the rolling fields of Kearney, Missouri, the Jesse James Farm looks peaceful, too peaceful. The white farmhouse, with its creaking porch and weathered shutters, hides a past soaked in gunpowder and blood. This is where the legendary outlaw Jesse James was born, and where his life came to a sudden, violent end in 1882, shot in the back by a man he trusted. Locals say that ever since that moment, the farm has never truly been quiet. Visitors claim to hear the sound of boots pacing on wooden floors, the metallic click of a revolver being cocked, and the distant whinny of a horse that isn't there. One staff member once locked up for the night, only to return the next morning and find every door wide open, as if someone had gone on a restless patrol. Paranormal investigators have recorded disembodied voices and flashes of light moving through the barn. Historical reports and museum archives have even documented repeated accounts from guests who swore they saw a man in dusty boots and a wide-brimmed hat standing by the window, staring toward the horizon. Some say it's Jesse himself, still guarding the land he once called home. Others believe it's the guilt of betrayal, echoing through the years. But when dusk falls and the wind rustles through the fields, one question remains. Does Missouri's most famous outlaw still ride these hills? Or has he never stopped running? Are in a Walnut Street Inn, Springfield, in the heart of Springfield. The Walnut Street Inn stands like a page torn from a Victorian novel, elegant, quiet, and strangely watchful. Its wraparound porch and polished wood floors exude comfort by day. But when night falls, something else seems to wake inside those walls. Guests who've stayed overnight speak of soft footsteps pacing the upstairs hallway, faint knocks at their doors, and the unmistakable feeling of someone sitting on the edge of the bed while they sleep. One couple checking out early described hearing a woman's voice humming an old lullaby in the middle of the night, though they were the only guests on that floor. Another visitor claimed her antique lamp turned on by itself 3 times in a row, just as she whispered, "Is anyone here?" Several publications have listed the inn among Missouri's most haunted lodgings, noting reports of cold spots and sudden bursts of floral perfume with no source. The owners, though friendly, admit there are certain rooms they avoid after dark, especially the one facing the street corner, where an old mirror sometimes fogs up with words written from the inside. Still, travelers continue to book rooms, drawn by curiosity as much as courage. And as the house settles into silence each night, a single thought lingers if the Walnut Street Inn still feels so alive. Who exactly is sharing the room with you? Mon 7. Wilson's Creek National Battlefield Republic. At dusk, when the mist drifts low across the fields of Wilson's Creek, the air grows heavy with something older than memory. This quiet stretch of land, once painted red by the first major Civil War battle west of the Mississippi, carries an eerie pulse beneath the soil. Locals say the cries of the fallen still echo here, faint shouts, the clash of bayonets, and the thunder of cannons that haven't fired in over 160 years. Park rangers have reported hearing horses galloping through the fog, only to find hoof prints that vanish halfway across the field. Visitors walking the trails after sunset claim to see soldiers in torn uniforms wandering aimlessly, their faces pale and eyes hollow, still fighting a war long since lost. Photographs taken at the Bloody Hill site have captured strange mists forming human shapes, and EVP recordings have picked up whispers too faint to decipher. Articles and historical features have chronicled these experiences for decades, calling Wilson's Creek one of the most haunted battlefields in America. On some nights, lantern lights appear along the ridge, moving as if by invisible hands. Historians say it's just moisture or tricks of the fog, but those who've stood here at midnight tell a different story. Because when the night grows still and the wind carries the echo of drums, one can't help but wonder, are the dead reenacting their final moments? Or have they simply refused to surrender? 8. Noster State Park, Johnson County. Deep within the rolling woodlands of Noster State Park, where the mist clings to the trees and the wind sighs through the pines, an unearthly light is said to wander the trails. Locals call it the Noster Ghost Light, a pale orb that drifts just above the ground, glowing blue-white before vanishing into the forest. According to old stories, it belongs to a railroad worker who lost his head in a tragic accident, still searching the woods with his lantern for what he lost. Campers have reported seeing the strange light weaving between the trees, followed by the faint clang of metal on metal, like distant rail cars colliding in the night. One ranger once chased what he thought was a trespasser with a flashlight until the light suddenly shot straight upward and disappeared. Others have described a thick fog rolling in from nowhere, accompanied by whispers that seem to echo through the leaves. Regional newspapers have documented sightings over the decades, describing the park as one of Missouri's most mysterious natural haunts, where science offers no easy answers. Even paranormal researchers have failed to explain the phenomenon. On calm, moonless nights, the forest grows so silent that every rustle feels alive, every flicker a warning. And when the glowing light returns once more across the trail, drifting closer and closer to you, would you run or follow it into the dark? 9. Jacques Guibourd Historic House Sainte-Geneviève. On a narrow cobblestone street in the old French district of Sti, Geneviève stands the Jacques Guibourd House, a Creole-style mansion built in 1806 that seems to hold its breath with every passing visitor. The scent of aged wood and candle wax lingers in the air, but it's the silence that unsettles most. Thick, heavy, as if listening. Those who've entered say the atmosphere changes without warning. The temperature drops, floorboards groan, and shadows shift even when no one moves. Tour guides tell of doors unlocking by themselves, rocking chairs swaying without a breeze, and faint laughter echoing from the upstairs rooms. One historian claimed she saw a woman in colonial dress standing by the window, watching the street below, only for the figure to fade before her eyes. Paranormal groups investigating the site have recorded whispers in French words translating roughly to "I remain here." Several articles and travel features have described these hauntings in detail, often noting the same recurring phenomena: unseen footsteps, flickering candles, and cold spots near the grand staircase. Some believe the ghost belongs to Jacques Guibourd himself, guarding the home he built through fire and revolution. Others say it's the spirit of a servant who died within these walls, still bound by duty even in death. But as the night settles over Stet, Geneviève in the old house exhales another sigh. One can't help but wonder, are its walls preserving history or replaying it? 10. Parlor Bed and Breakfast, Ironton. Tucked away in the quiet town of Ironton, the Parlor Bed and Breakfast looks charming: lace curtains, antique furniture, and the faint scent of lilac drifting from the porch. But behind its inviting exterior lies a house that doesn't always sleep. Guests who stay here often report waking in the dead of night to the sound of soft footsteps pacing just outside their door, or the gentle creak of a rocking chair moving on its own. Some have heard a child's laughter echoing through the hallways, though no children were checked in. One woman swore she felt a small, cold hand grip her wrist as she reached for the light switch, only to find herself alone. The owners have admitted that they, too, hear doors open and close when the house is empty. And once found every framed picture in the hallway tilted at the same angle after locking up for the night. Local features and travel reports have highlighted these hauntings for years, calling the parlor one of Missouri's most quietly unsettling B&Bs. Paranormal investigators recorded sudden drops in temperature and faint whispers near the staircase, as if unseen guests still wander the halls. Yet despite its eerie reputation, the inn remains open to the curious and the brave. And as the candlelight flickers against the old wallpaper, one question lingers in the darkness when you book a room here. Are you sharing it with history, or with whoever never checked out? In Joseph M. Miller Mausoleum, Holden. On the edge of a forgotten cemetery in Holden stands the Joseph M. Miller Mausoleum, a lonely stone crypt that seems to hum with its own quiet dread. Built in the early 1900s, The structure towers above the surrounding graves, its carved limestone walls now cracked and moss-covered. Locals say the mausoleum glows faintly on stormy nights, a pale green light seeping through its sealed door like breath from another world. Visitors have reported hearing low moans and the metallic scrape of something moving inside, though the door has been locked for decades. One night, a pair of teenagers claimed to see a figure standing within the narrow slit of the entrance, a silhouette too still, too dark to belong to the living. Even police responding to reports of intruders found the interior untouched, dust thick as time itself. Historical write-ups and local news features have long documented the mausoleum's eerie reputation, noting how no one seems to know exactly who Joseph Miller was, or why his tomb was built so grand compared to the rest. Some believe he made a pact to ensure his legacy would never be forgotten. Others say the crypt holds more than one restless soul. On calm nights, those brave enough to visit often swear they can hear a whisper rising from within, a voice repeating the same words over and over. But no one's ever stayed long enough to make out what it says. Would you? 12. Edge of Hell, Kansas City. In the heart of downtown Kansas City stands a building that has terrified generations. The Edge of Hell, Hokit Eddystone. By day, it's a famous haunted attraction. But by night, many believe something far older and far darker stirs behind its brick walls. The building dates back to the 1800s, when the district was rife with crime, fires, and disease. Locals once called it Hell's Half Acre, a place so cursed that preachers warned people not to walk its streets after sundown. Employees today tell stories that go far beyond staged scares, doors slamming shut when no one's near, footsteps pacing the attic after hours, and an unseen voice whispering from the darkness during rehearsals. One worker quit after seeing a shadow crawl along the ceiling upside down. Human-shaped but wrong. Visitors have fainted inside the narrow hallways where cold air suddenly wraps around them like invisible arms. Paranormal investigators who've toured the site after closing captured voices calling their names, and strange bursts of static that formed the word "stay." Articles and local features have noted that the attraction's haunting may not just be theatrical, that something within those walls remembers what happened here long before it became entertainment. Whether it's the spirits of those who lived and died in the old district, or something drawn to the fear of thousands of screaming guests. No one knows. But one thing is certain when the lights go out and the crowd is gone. The Edge of Hell earns its name in silence. The question is, when you walk through its doors, do you truly leave? 13. Beattie Mansion, St. Joseph. Perched high on a hill overlooking St. Joseph, the Beattie Mansion stands like a guardian of secrets best left buried. Built in 1854 by Armstrong and Eliza Beattie, it was once a home of wealth and grace, until tragedy turned it into something else entirely. After the Beatties died, the house became a refuge for the poor and mentally ill. Then later, a care home for the elderly. Decades of suffering soaked into its walls. And some say the spirits of those who died there never truly moved on. Visitors today report heavy footsteps echoing through the hallways, furniture shifting in empty rooms, and muffled voices drifting from the old parlor. One paranormal team recorded a clear whisper saying, "Help me," right before their equipment shut off without warning. A caretaker once found every door on the second floor standing wide open at dawn, though he'd locked them himself the night before, Several articles and televised features have documented the mansion's hauntings, calling it one of Missouri's most active supernatural sites. Guests brave enough to stay overnight describe sudden chills and unseen hands brushing their shoulders. Some claim to have seen a man in 19th century attire staring out from the second-floor window, believed to be Armstrong Beattie himself, still watching over what was once his pride as the wind howls through the broken shutters. One thought lingers when a home witnesses so much death. Does it become part of the afterlife itself? Number 14, Ravenswood Mansion, Bunceton. Hidden deep within the quiet farmlands of Bunceton stands Ravenswood Mansion. So, a sprawling 30-room estate frozen in time. Built in 1880 for Nadine and Charles Harrison, it once hosted lavish parties, glittering chandeliers, and the soft echo of violin music drifting through the halls. But those echoes never faded, even after everyone was gone. Visitors say Nadine never truly left her home. Her presence lingers like perfume, faint and familiar, filling rooms that haven't been occupied for decades. Tour guides have heard footsteps gliding across the ballroom floor and doors creaking open as if to greet unseen guests. One maintenance worker swore he saw a woman in a white gown descending the staircase, only for her to vanish halfway down. Paranormal teams have recorded cold spots, sudden whispers, and the sound of fabric rustling when the air is perfectly still. Local newspapers have chronicled these strange occurrences for years, noting that even the family descendants who manage the property refuse to enter certain rooms after dark. Today, the mansion stands preserved as a museum, its furniture untouched, its mirrors draped as if waiting for the next waltz to begin. And sometimes, when moonlight spills across the grand parlor, witnesses claim to see her silhouette spinning slowly, eternally, in silence. Perhaps Nadine Harrison is simply reliving her happiest nights, or perhaps she's waiting for the music to start again. 15. Fabulous Fox Theater, St. Louis. When the lights dim inside the Verhörstadt Fabulous Fox Theater, the air feels different, thick, electric, almost aware. Opened in 1929, this grand palace of Art Deco splendor has seen thousands of performances, countless ovations, and perhaps a few guests who never left. The stagehands whisper about George, the spirit of a former employee who died during renovations and still patrols the upper balconies. Ushers have reported footsteps echoing across the empty mezzanine, the faint jingle of keys, and the soft murmur of voices rehearsing when the stage stands dark. One actress recounted feeling a hand on her shoulder before her cue, only to turn and find no one there. A night custodian once caught sight of a man in an old-fashioned uniform standing in the lobby mirror, saluting the stage before fading away over the decades. The theater's strange activity has been noted in multiple reports and features, many describing it as one of the most haunted performance halls in the Midwest. Even guests attending late shows claim to glimpse flickering lights from the highest box seats, as if unseen patrons still applaud from beyond. Some say the Fox is alive, feeding on applause, on memory, on the energy left behind. Others believe it's simply full of those who loved it too much to go. But as the final curtain falls and the theater sinks into silence, one question lingers beneath the velvet seats when the spotlight shines again. Who will it find waiting in the dark? 15 places, 15 echoes of the dead. From the restless prisoners of Jefferson City to the eternal dancers of Bunceton, Missouri proves one chilling truth: time doesn't erase everything. Some stories claw their way out of the grave, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. So before you turn off the lights tonight, ask yourself which of these haunted places would you dare to visit, and which one is already calling your name.